Welcome back to Carry the G in MKE. Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV, and I'm back with another week talking all things Packers with Camille Davis. Camille, how was your weekend? Did you survive that Packers comeback with your heart intact?
Barely, but barely means yes. So I'm not gonna complain too much about that. It was quite a game. I can't really wait to talk about this one.
Right? I mean, it was a thriller in the old school sense of, man, you could feel the vibe through the television around Lambeau, and the fact that it was feeling pretty grim there for a
Mhm.
good part of that game. And it's been a while since, because, we've seen some games in Matt's tenure as the head coach where they haven't really gotten off the bus. They kind of got, it was never really a contest. I'm thinking back to that Chargers game a couple years ago
Yeah.
out in the West Coast. We've seen a couple 49ers games go that way. But with the Saints, I always knew their defense was legit, right? Going into this game, I knew it would be a tough test. But, all of the kind of self-inflicted wounds on offense were a surprise to me, especially for a home opener, where you think, okay, they've been getting ready all week. Yeah, I know there's a lot of moving parts, whole lot of injuries to deal with. I understand that, but man, there were so many times where they just shot themselves in the foot. A lot of mental errors too, where I don't know. What do you think caused that? What was your take on that? Because it was really striking for a team that you would think was really up for it after that really close loss last week. Okay, we get to reset, get to kind of show up at Lambeau, packed house, tons of alumni in attendance, and for 3 quarters they just laid an egg.
Is it possible to be too excited, too geeked up as you come into a game and
Right?
you let that momentum kind of carry you to doing things that are out of characteristic? Like,
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
this is a season where I expected some growing pains, and part of that I expected for there to be penalties. Young guys figuring it out, learning how to play at this level. Uh, but like you said, it got to a point where I'm like, another fact, another one.
right, right.
Like, when does this stop? And it was so crazy because the defense was playing really good. The Packers defense showed up on Sunday, and the offense was just in such a poor rhythm. And I would guess that part of it has to do with penalties. It's hard to get into a good flow and a good rhythm
Yes, right.
when you're constantly having to see, the ball get moved back. You're seeing the field littered with trash. So you're just like, again, again. I call flag. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
trash in
it
Lambeau. We
is
don't want to
trash.
see them
It
against the
is
Packers.
trash, no
So
doubt about it. Well, and to get to that point, like so many back on track situations where, okay, you do have a positive, what you think is a positive play. Now, suddenly, instead of
mhm.
2nd and 2, because you thought you gained 8, all of a sudden it's 2nd and 20 because you had a holding penalty, or you have a false start that takes you out of what should have been a manageable kind of
Yep.
third down. The number of times that we're marching backwards, especially early in this game. I mean, we'll talk about Jordan Love in a bit, but I do think it speaks to their mindset, and I think this is a reflective of Matt as a coach, where they were down, nothing was working, but no one gave up. Like, I never saw any quit. I certainly saw the kind of most frustration maybe come out after that failed fourth down where Jordan and Patrick Taylor were clearly not on the same page. But even after that, like, they had just had probably their best drive on offense,
Mhm.
and you never saw any panic. You never saw any quit. You just saw guys go back out there and keep after it. And I will say, to your point, this whole season is about a young team learning how to win, learning how to play together. And I think that's a really encouraging sign. Now, I don't think it gives you much going forward as far as like every week's different and you got to hopefully come out the gate a little faster next time. But man, that they're going to remember that. They're going to know, like, yeah, if we stick together, we can do it. We can do anything. And they certainly did yesterday in a game that I think a lot of people probably had them counted out heading into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they showed a lot of, what I like to say, stick to itiveness, where it's like you don't
Yeah.
give up. You just stick with it. And I know you mentioned we'll talk about Jordan Love in a bit, but like I feel like offensively, he's a big piece as to why it
Yes.
was that. Like you look to your
Right.
quarterback to keep that poise, to keep everything calm enough so that you feel like, okay, maybe we can do this. And the reality of it was, I mean, fourth quarter, being down 17 points, it's a big thing to chop away at. But once they got that first field goal, I think I even tweeted, I was like 2 possessions. Like, it's
Yeah,
at this point, you gotta
exactly.
just keep it in mind,
Now
like,
now you
w
go.
now
Yes,
you keep going, you
100%.
keep going. Get a stop and then see what happens. Can you get another stop and see what happens? And at that point in the game, come fourth quarter, well, really, the third leading into the fourth, when they had that failed fourth down conversion that you mentioned, you felt momentum. They started kind of being like, okay, we can move against this defense. And I saw some Saints fans complaining because they were like, I mean, we wanted to prevent defense in the fourth quarter and we got chopped up. And it's kind of
All
like,
you know is those fans don't know ball. If they
it's
thought
like
that was prevent defense, they were
they
playing
sure did.
man coverage. That's not prevent.
I saw some single high safety. I was like, I
Thank
don't know
you. Thank you. Like, what are you looking at?
where that's coming from, but like it's like the Packers finally in the fourth quarter were like, okay, well, let's figure this out. And early in the game, too, I mean, there were some receivers dropping some passes. You were like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
should have been caught. And
Toure and Reed both had some
yes.
real brutal drops. No
And I
question.
had Reed and FanDuel as well. And I was like double cheering for him where I'm like, come on, like, come on, come on.
Oh boy. Oh no. And that touchdown that should have been but wasn't. I mean,
Yeah.
what's funny is I have Reed on my fantasy team, full disclosure, but I only picked him up because Watson's been hurt. Watson was
Right.
one of my keepers. Camille, Watson's killing me. Watson on the sideline is killing me, Camille. Oh, okay.
I
But
feel it. That's
digress.
why I had to give up the traditional fantasy football. Like I will do the daily,
Right.
the DFS, but
That's a
I
good way to
can't.
go about it. I know, like you're rooting for these players and they're not on the field. It's hurtful. It's hurtful, Camille. Christian
Right.
owes me an apology. But we want to talk about Jordan. Like, look, I have to admit, I was incredibly impressed with how Love just kept battling. And and we've talked about it a couple times now, and I think this might become a recurring thing, maybe not only this season, but throughout his career. You talk about not getting rattled. I mean, I think it's funny to go back and watch that failed fourth down to Taylor. That's the most upset and or kind of not flustered, but kind of miffed that I've seen him at all throughout the 3+ years now he's been in the league. Like, even after the Kansas City game and everything he went through in that game, like that failed fourth down to Taylor is about as animated on the negative side as you'll ever see. And even that was still like, oh shucks. Like he barely gets upset, and he just kept getting after it. And you could see the trust he has in those young receivers, in guys like Dobbs, Reed. Certainly, I would prefer if we'd stop taking these deep shots to Samori Toure when
Man.
he's double, triple covered. But
Triple.
it's so clear that Jordan is ready. Like, he'll throw to anyone at any time. And you have to think they're probably sitting there in the wide receiver room going, the coach is probably saying, oh, Vrabel's up there going, okay, I don't care if you're the fourth read, be ready. Because there's no moment that he will not be coming to you if he finds you and you're open and you're in the kind of flow of the play. He's going. He's pulling the trigger. He's a gunslinger, and I'm kind of loving it.
And that's the thing about it, because we know at this point, especially as a Packer fans, we got to watch two Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back just over the last 30 years. And there's a lot of things that are required to be a good quarterback. You know, you got the arm strength, you got the accuracy, you got the IQ. And I mentioned before when we were talking about just the mental miscues, but you also have to be a leader of men and someone who these guys are going to be willing to go to war for. And Jordan has showed time and time again, and I feel like a broken record by saying just the poise that he maintains at all times. Like, he has that about him, and it makes guys want to play for him. You see, after Dobbs had his touch, they're throwing up the little love hand signs.
How great was that? I'm literally using that for Packers Daily today.
It's beautiful where it's like
such a great moment. Yes.
They're here for that quarterback. And when you watch them, like, yes, I would love to see the completion percentage go up. I've seen people complaining about that. But again,
Camille, people just need to complain, man. People just need to complain.
Young team, young receivers,
yes,
young quarterback. They're all figuring it out together. And we see it in the game, and it's frustrating when you see the timing is off. You see the timing is still off a bit between Love and Musgrave on some of those deep balls. The timing was off with Taylor and Love on that fourth down, where you're like, okay, like there's some things to work out here. But when you see the fact that Jordan Love is going to give his receivers a chance, he's throwing 50-50 balls and saying, like, go get it. Like, I'm giving you the chance.
Yes. And what's crazy is that kind of became the offense down the stretch there. You know, almost the entirety of that comeback, whether it is kind of the pass interference calls, which, hey, fair play, man. You're going to play man up. You're going to mug us all day, which they did, and they got away with a lot, and that's fine. That's how they were calling it. And that's how they were playing it. The Packers knew, okay, well, we're going to go give our guys chances, and there's a decent possibility that, especially if we're kind of throwing back shoulder, those defensive backs are going to have to grab you. And they benefited from a couple calls, but they also made some insane catches and some incredible plays down the stretch where the Packers finally seemed to say, all right, we've been kind of trying to run our offense, but at some point we've just got to push the ball downfield, and we're going to give these guys one-on-one opportunities. And they answered the bell in a big way.
And that's what you want to see. And I know, like, I think back a lot when I think about young Jordy Nelson, a young Devontae, where it's like there were times the
Right.
ball's hitting them in the hands and they're just
Yep.
dropping it. Like, I
Yes.
understand that with young receivers, it comes with time. Sometimes, and some guys don't get it, and those guys don't last in the
Yep.
league. But the ones who do, they figure it out. And the flashes I keep seeing from the young receiving core, from Jordan Love, like, it's encouraging about one, this is going to be a fun season, maddening at times for sure.
Yeah.
But fun to
Yes.
watch and see how these guys continue to develop. That unknowingness, but seeing those flashes is what makes all of this so exciting for me.
Man, we've mentioned Dobbs and Reed and Torrey. I haven't even mentioned Wicks yet.
Oh,
Wicks
man.
was so impressive off the line of scrimmage yesterday. There were a number of times I'm like, it's baby Devontae. It's baby Devontae at the line of scrimmage as far as his release, getting off press coverage, leaving guys like basically frozen
Yeah.
with his first step. I mean, this is his third professional game. Are you kidding me? He's got a long way to go. They all do, but that was impressed. I was so impressed.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Real fun. Which is what football should be. But sometimes it's not, Camille. Sometimes people, are watching the product on the field. They're not too happy about it, and they boo. And I wanted to get your take on this because we haven't discussed this, and I'm getting to know you a little bit via this podcast, and I want to get your take because this is something that bugs the holy hell out of me. I used to get into it with guys on the beat about this. Like, so yesterday, the Packers are out there looking like garbage. I mean, I think that's being charitable, especially on offense for, the better part of 3 quarters, right? And at some point, Lambeau had enough, and they started booing. And of course, then the all breaks out, the pearl clutching start. How dare they boo? How could they boo? You're not a Packers fan if you boo. Like, man, I'm here to tell you, if you get there and you're vibed up and it's the home opener and the offense looks like that repeatedly for an extended period of time, you paid your money. You have every right to boo. Man, if you want the crowd to get up and get loud and get vibing, give them a reason to do so. And I think it started to turn just as the Packers did, like there in the fourth quarter. You saw them start to get up on third downs. You start to hear it got much, much louder. The vibe really changed. But man, I have zero problems with people booing if the product warrants it.
We're on the same page with that. Like, there are people who were like, oh, I guess if I'm a fan, I can never criticize my team. And it's like, no, I don't think that is true.
Right.
Like, if you see something with your team and you're like, this isn't right, like, of course, be respectful about it and have an opinion. Don't just
how hard
say
is that?
Words.
Right.
Just to say them.
Like words.
Like, what? Like the whole AJ Dillon stuff from last week. I was reading these comments.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what? But again,
I know.
The guys have to give the fans something to cheer about. And like, it's not like Packer fans are known as being as vocal with their discontent as a fan base, such as like Philly fans who when you play for a Philly team, if you don't come with it, even at home,
you're gonna get booed. You're get booed.
I mean, they threw batteries at Santa Claus. So like, what Philly's going to be. And Green Bay is still Midwest nice. Like, even the boos were polite. Like, they were kind of like gentle boos coming down.
True. It's so true.
Like, it wasn't that big of a thing. And we've heard Lambeau boo before. I mean, think about it. Lambeau Field, the waiting list to get tickets is just extremely long. When me and my husband started dating back in 2013, he put his name down on the list, and we're still at like 90,000 something tickets into Lambeau. Tickets aren't cheap. It's a whole day event. If I'm spending my hard-earned money going to this game to see this product, like, yeah, I'm a cheer for you because you're my guys. But if I'm not liking what I'm seeing, I might let out a little boo. And it's not a boo like I'm not a fan anymore, but it's like, I need you guys to play better.
Get your stuff together.
Yeah.
I don't think that's crazy. But we'll see. Who knows? Here's the thing. So we're all feeling great, right? Big comeback victory. It's always great to talk about what they need to improve upon after a win, right? Like, you love the idea of, okay, there's a win, young team, lots to work on, etc. Okay. Well, those lessons are going to be put to the test real quick because they got a short week We're turning around, facing the Lions on Thursday night. I tell you, Camille, I'm trying to enjoy this win, right? But in the back of my mind, all I can think of is if the Packers start like that again at home against this Lions team, it's going to be embarrassing on a national stage. Like, it's one thing to be tucked away, 1:00 game. A lot of the country got to see it, I'll admit that, but it wasn't their number one, like, broadcast crew. It wasn't like a nationally televised game, right? Like, Thursday night, everyone's going to be on Amazon watching the Packers, and if they come out looking like they came out against the Saints, it's going to get late real early. How do you see the Lions game playing out, sitting here a couple days removed?
A couple days is right. Quick turnaround with some injuries, but I mean, let's be honest, the Lions are good. They're a good football
Yep.
team.
Yes, they
They
are.
have a great defensive front. The Packers have a great defensive front, so it's going to be a game for sure where you're looking at those old lines and you're like, who can hold up long enough to give their quarterback some time to make something happen? I mean, the Lions had like 7 sacks on Sunday against Atlanta. It was
Yeah,
just
they did.
and they came into the game hurt as well. They didn't have either of their
Right.
safeties, missing a corner, running back, 2 linemen, offensive linemen. So, like, and then they had more offensive linemen injuries
Camille,
during that
how
game.
is that? How is that possible? I was told only the Packers are dealing with injuries. I thought everyone else was completely healthy across
Hey,
the
man,
NFL.
football's a violent sport, unfortunately, and that injuries
Truly.
are part of the game, and it's that next man up mentality. So, to your point about if you don't come out of the gate strong, it could be a long day. Like, even with those injuries that they have, like, they are still a good football team. We have seen what that offense can do. Again, impressive win over Atlanta this past week, one that we didn't get it done against Atlanta
Mm,
ourselves. So,
That's the most depressing part, Camille.
I
The
know,
fact
right?
that they treated Ritter as he should have been treated
Yep.
by Joe Barry and company, and the fact that he looked like competent against Green Bay, even though they had his first interception, etc. That's what's so frustrating. But yeah, you turn around on Detroit, that front will get after you. They
Yep.
made Green Bay's life miserable in that last game last season. I'm fascinated to see. And here, I will give Joe Barry a bouquet here because for
Oh.
all the crap I talk about him, and I do excessively, I understand this because he's so frustrating to watch his defense at times. Last season, 2 of his best games as a coordinator were against the Lions. Like, they lost both those games last year because the offense couldn't move the ball and put up points the way they should, right?
Mhm.
So you turn it around and you look at the Lions last season, especially, they were dropping 30 burgers on everybody on their schedule. Come to the Packers games, Joe did a really nice job of limiting them and their ability to, like, basically get in the red zone where they do a lot of their damage. I'm fascinated to see, to your point, that Packers defensive front has been outstanding against the pass this year. I think they held up a little better against the run yesterday. Did a
Mhm.
really good job kind of along the interior. I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, tries to attack the edges because we still see, for
Yeah.
all the greatness we saw from Rashawn yesterday, still limited, limited snaps, etc., they're still able to get around the edge on him because he is so eager to get after the quarterback. And I think more and more teams are probably going to try that as far as trying to use their aggressiveness against them. If there's a team that can do it, it's the Lions. So I do think a big part of this is, can the Packers get even one or two of these guys back, whether it's Watson, whether it's Aaron Jones, just to tilt the field a little bit and score some
Yeah.
points.
Yeah, they
Because I
definitely
think
need that.
they're going to need it this game more than ever because, I mean, yeah, you talk about the Saints, they're limited offensively, even with Carr in there.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, the Lions are a whole nother ballgame.
Isn't this so crazy to be having this conversation about the Detroit Lions after so many years of, you
It's
know,
insane. It's
big
insane.
growing Detroit, where it's like, I'm not really worried about what y'all got going over there. It's
What's
cute.
funny is they are now respectable
Yep.
in a way the Bears have not been for like a decade plus, whatever. The Bears are now the Lions. It's
Yes.
crazy. Like,
And
for a while, at least the Bears were like, they had Urlacher or whatever. Like, there was a rivalry. There was competence, at least. The Bears are a total dumpster fire now, and the Lions are respectable. How the hell did we get here?
weird things in 2023. But and it's even when you look at it, the Packers have lost the last 3 against Detroit. So it's like,
Yes. Correct. It's nuts, right?
You have to come with it. This is not the same Detroit Lion team. And for some people in their head, they're still thinking of Detroit as what they used to be and not seeing them for
No.
what they really are.
Dan Campbell has
Yes.
completely turned them around, and he has them playing not only very well, but they play well against the Packers. He's done a really good job against Matt LaFleur's squads. Even when they've lost the games, they've played hard, they've been physical, and they've been well coached. This is a tough test on a short week. Got to think they probably practiced very, very minimally this week. Man, I don't know. They just got to come out the gate better. That's all. That's all. That's my key to the game. That is it. If the Packers can do that, they got a chance.
And to the point that we made earlier as well here, with this game, understanding again, young team, they're going to make some mistakes, but they need to play as clean of a game as they can. Like, they can't really afford to give this Lions team any additional help, because the Lions don't need any additional help. Like,
especially you start getting into 2nd and 20s and things like that. Hutchinson's going to be licking his chops.
He's going to be ready to go. He's a Michigan kid
that.
through and through. He has some feelings about the Green Bay Packers. We know
Yes, he does. He does. Well, we got to limit him, definitely. Hopefully Bakhtiari's up. We'll see. We will see. Camille, this is always great. I love talking ball with you each and every week. What you got going on this week? Where can people find you on this here internet?
Yes, sir. So Tech File, we're going to be recording a new episode of Technical File tomorrow. It'll be live on our YouTube if you want to join us around 7 p.m. Central Time. Otherwise, you can catch the replay of the show right after we finish recording or wherever else you get your podcast on Wednesday. And then I haven't heard back from Kane and Locked On Bucks yet this week, but I'm sure I'm going to pop up on there at some point throughout the week.
Fantastic. Camille, thanks so much. Talk to you next week after Thursday night's game, and go Pack Go.
For sure.